The kid dares to speak a forbidden name, Casey Stoner, the ghost of raw speed, the outlaw king who walked away before the kingdom understood what it lost. The rider who didn't care about PR, didn't care about politics, didn't care about approval. He cared about the throttle and the truth. And now there is Pedro Acosta, 21, winless in MotoGP, already calling himself the closest thing to Stoner's DNA. Not Marc, not Lorenzo, not Danny, not even the Chaos Dragon Marquez. He picks Stoner. It isn't arrogance, it isn't comedy, it's identity. Because Acosta doesn't want to be a champion built by data rooms, electronics, and marketing departments. He wants to be a throwback. He wants to be the cub that kills using instinct, not software. So he strips the electronics from the KTM in Sepang and rides like it is 2007. Elbows sharp, wheel spin singing, sensors off, hard on. But Stoner earned his legacy in blood, not comparison. This entire war now hangs on one question. Can Pedro Acosta carry the shadow of Casey Stoner without collapsing under the weight of a ghost who never needed to speak to be feared? Comment your first section 1, opening scene, 700 words. Cinematic war energy, no filler, pure GP24 fire. Sepang heat doesn't forgive. The asphalt feels like an altar built for warriors who love suffering a bit too much. The air is thick, violent, buzzing with the kind of tension only a Paddock knows when a young rider is about to do something insane. And that morning, everyone saw it. Pedro Acosta walked into the KTM garage with the swagger of a kid who knows the world hasn't beaten him yet. He didn't look at the screens. He didn't ask for numbers. He didn't wait for permission from engineers who believe salvation comes in percentages and telemetry overlays. He said the sentence that split the Paddock in half: take the electronics off. Even the mechanics blinked. Who asks for that in MotoGP 2025? This isn't Moto2. This isn't Moto3. This isn't an era where you can afford to dance with power like it's a loyal partner. Modern MotoGP is controlled chaos, and most riders cling to that controlled part like oxygen. But Acosta wanted the chaos raw, wanted the wheel spin unfiltered, wanted the traction fighting back, wanted the throttle to punch instead of negotiate. It was reckless, it was poetic, it was stupid to some, brilliant to others. But everyone recognized exactly whose spirit he was trying to summon. The ghost of Casey Stoner. Not the politician champion, not the media darling, not the smiling billboard. The Stoner who slid a Ducati at full lean like physics was an opinion. The Stoner who won races on bikes nobody else could tame. The Stoner who didn't need social media, didn't need theatrics, didn't need anything except a clear track and a dirty line to cut through it. And Acosta, barely old enough to rent a car in half the world, dared to align himself with that legacy. Not behind it, not under it, beside it. I would say Casey Stoner. He answered when asked which legend matched his riding style. He laughed before saying it, but his eyes didn't. This wasn't fan talk. This wasn't flattery. This was a declaration, a warning, a poetic middle finger to the expectation that rookies should compare themselves only after winning something worth remembering. Stoner won 2 world titles. He changed Ducati's fate. He reinvented corner entry with the rear tire, not the front. He mastered throttle steering to a level humans still struggle to describe. Acosta? No MotoGP wins. No premier class podiums that shake the world. A trail of heroic rides ruined by KTM's mid-race fade. A Paddock calling him the chosen one without giving him the machinery to prove it. But this is where the war gets interesting. Acosta's comparison wasn't about trophies. It was about philosophy. Old school versus modern. Instinct versus data. Chaos versus control. When he stripped the RC16 of electronics, the message wasn't subtle. Let me fight this bike like Stoner fought his. And Sepang responded. The kid posted his best points haul of the year. Not because the bike became better, not because KTM magically solved their tire drop curse. It was because Acosta rode the thing like he wanted to bite it. This was not efficiency. This was violence with calculation, ruthless talent with just enough discipline to survive the lap. His riding looked messy to the untrained eye, but it wasn't. It was Stoner's ghost wearing a new body and a new era's leathers. The sliding, the late corner corrections, the willingness to lose the rear just to find a new line. The "if it kills me, at least it dies first" energy. But here's the twist. Stoner never compared himself to anyone. He didn't need to. Acosta does. And that difference is what makes this war so dangerous. Because to carry Stoner's shadow, you must first earn your own. And now the entire paddock whispers one question behind closed doors. Has Pedro Acosta summoned a ghost he's not yet strong enough to control? Comment below. There's a strange smell in MotoGP garages when a rider stops trusting the machine and starts trusting himself instead. It's not oil, it's not rubber, it's not fuel, it's defiance. And that scent followed Pedro Acosta everywhere after Sepang. Because what he did wasn't just a test day stunt, it was a challenge to an entire system. KTM is a factory obsessed with data granularity. They measure the world in decimals. They polish mistakes until personality becomes an inconvenience. They trust simulation more than instinct. And in the middle of all this algorithm worship, Acosta walked in like a caveman with a sword shouting, "Turn off the fire." That is where the tension began. The paddock pretends this is all about riding style. It never is. It's politics, it's power, it's identity. It's the same battle Casey Stoner fought inside Ducati in 2007 when he told them to stop over-engineering decisions he could feel with his spine. That's why the comparison stings people. Not because Acosta is wrong, because Acosta is too right. You can't teach the kind of instinct he rides with. You can only try not to ruin it. But KTM, for all their strengths, haven't built a bike that rewards instinct. They built a bike that rewards mathematics. The RC16 still suffers mid-corner rotation deficiency compared to Ducati and Aprilia. That forces the bike to rely on rear tire grip to finish corners. When the electronics are active, torque filtering kills some of the natural slide Acosta wants to use to rotate the bike. Psychology shift. Acosta feels the electronics interfere with his rhythm. He doesn't want torque to be managed. He wants torque to be set free. Track result. With electronics off, he forces the rear to rotate aggressively, creating the corner speed the bike architecturally lacks. It's risky, but with his skill, the risk becomes weaponized. This is literal Stoner energy. Old school. Instinct first. Fight the bike, shape the bike, bully the bike. But here's the problem. Stoner was doing this on bikes with Boy Scout levels of aero. Acosta is doing it in an era where aero loads behave like a steel cage around the motorcycle. When you break traction at 55 degrees lean in 2025, the world treats that like a sin. Acosta doesn't care. And the factories? They don't know how to process a rider who wants less help. In the KTM garage, the whispers grew louder. Is he pushing too far? Is he ignoring the data? Is he trying to be Stoner instead of being Acosta? But the bigger question was hidden beneath all of it. What if being Acosta is being Stoner? Enter the second psychological fracture, the pressure of expectation. He hasn't won, not once, not in nearly 40 Premier Class starts. He has led races, he has overtaken like a demon, he has ridden like destiny wrapped in a teenage face. But KTM drops him mid-race every single time. Tire degradation, electronics misalignment, aero pressure buildup making the front vague after 12 laps, engine heat saturation. He rides with Stoner's ambition on a bike that needs a gentle accountant. And this mismatch is becoming the fuse of a much bigger explosion. Because every time Acosta finishes a race, people no longer judge the RC16. They judge him. Is he really the next Marc? Is he really better than Bez or Aldeguer? Is he really worth the hype? Is he too young? Is he too wild? Is he too Stoner? That's the price of invoking a ghost. You don't just borrow his name, you inherit his criticism. And KTM feels it too. They want Acosta to become their first alien. But aliens don't listen. Aliens don't obey. Aliens don't adapt to the bike. They force the bike to adapt to them. And yet, all of this builds toward one truth. Acosta is not wrong for comparing himself to Stoner. He's wrong for doing it this early. Because legacies like Stoner's aren't earned through talent alone. They are earned through brutality, suffering, political battles, and walking away from comfort every time it appears. The question now is, will Pedro Acosta master the shadow he summoned, Or will the shadows swallow him before he wins a single MotoGP race? Comment below. Here's where the ground starts cracking. Acosta strips the electronics, finds form, finds points, finds confidence, and then the illusion breaks. Because riding like Stoner is one thing, living the consequences is another. The collapse begins with the one truth every engineer hates to admit. Instinct cannot beat physics forever. You can slide a bike for a lap, for a stint, for a highlight reel. But a MotoGP race is war fought on tire carcasses that melt under emotion. Acosta's aggression kills tires faster. His corner entry chaos raises front temperatures. His mid-corner steering by throttle burns edge grip like paper in monsoon wind. He is doing the right things at the wrong time on the wrong machine. Watch the pattern. Lap 1, ferocious. Lap 5, alive. Lap 10, red hot. Lap 13, KTM fades. Lap 16, electronic scramble. Lap 18, tire screams. Lap 20, Acosta tries to ride the ghost. Lap 22, physics says no. This is where the Stoner comparison collapses. Casey didn't fade, even when the Ducati was venomous, even when the Honda was unstable, even when the tires turned to vapor. Stoner had a supernatural skill, the ability to ride faster with less tire, less grip, less stability, less control. Acosta has the ambition, but not the machinery, not yet. And that gap is where the myth breaks. Let's go deeper, mechanical. When Acosta turns off electronics, the RC16 becomes brutally mechanical. More rear spin, more heat, more wear, less support for mid-corner rotation. This forces him to brake deeper. Deeper braking, higher front load, higher aero stall risk. Aero stall, front slide, more corrections, more tire damage. This loop eats races alive. Stoner could ride that loop. Acosta is still learning to survive it. But the collapse isn't just mechanical, it's emotional. Every time he fades late in a race, it chips away at the comparison he made. People remember the quote, "Critics sharpen their knives," and KTM begins to fear that their prodigy might go searching for a future elsewhere. Acosta becomes the cub in a lion's world. He wants identity, he wants legacy, he wants to be Stoner. But Stoner didn't need to declare anything. Acosta did, and in MotoGP, the moment you speak a claim into existence, the sport tries to break you just to see if you're worthy. Every race since Sepang has carried that weight. Acosta fighting lap after lap, trying to ride with ghosts, trying to live up to a comparison he volunteered, trying to prove to the world that he isn't a highlight, he's a future tyrant. But this is the harsh truth. If you call yourself Stoner, you must win like Stoner. If you ride like Stoner, you must survive like Stoner. If you invoke Stoner, you must endure hell like Stoner. And Acosta hasn't done it yet, but he could. He absolutely could. The collapse is not failure. It is the price of evolution. Stoner paid it. Marquez paid it. Bezzecchi paid it. Quartararo paid it. Even Bagnaia paid it in 2025. Acosta is paying it now. And the world is watching the cracks form just to see if something monstrous grows out of them. Is collapse the death of legends? Or the birth of tyrants? Comment below.